Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about something we all do without realizing it, oversharing our personal lives. We're living in a world that's obsessed with constant updates and instant validation. But here's the hard truth: every time you share a little too much of yourself, you're giving away a piece of your power. Think about it. Every post, every update, every time you spill your heart out to people who don't really care, you're trading your emotional energy for a fleeting moment of attention. And what's worse, you're inviting opinions that don't deserve a seat at your table. I've been there. I've posted the vulnerable stuff thinking it would make me feel seen. But instead, it left me more exposed, more anxious, and more lost. Oversharing doesn't heal you. It just adds more noise to an already noisy world. And here's the thing: your life is yours. It's not a reality show for everyone to watch. When you share everything, you lose the magic of living in the moment. You lose the mystery that makes you powerful. So I challenge you today: close the doors to those who haven't earned a place in your heart. Start treating your personal journey like a sacred space. Stop giving away the most precious parts of your life for likes, comments, or fleeting validation. Because the truth is, your growth deserves respect. Your story deserves protection, and you deserve the peace that comes with living for yourself, not for an audience. Oversharing is draining your emotional energy. Let me break that down for you, because this is something most of us don't realize until we're already feeling exhausted and worn out. Every time you share a personal story, an intimate detail, or a raw struggle, you're opening up your inner world to someone else's opinions, judgments, or worse, indifference. And while we're taught that vulnerability is strength, which it absolutely is in the right contexts, what often gets missed is the fact that constant exposure to the outside world's reactions can slowly chip away at your confidence and peace of mind. When you overshare, you're essentially giving away little pieces of your emotional energy bit by bit. You're turning your most sacred experiences into currency for connection. And while it might feel good in the moment to get a response, a comment, or a like, what you're actually doing is feeding an endless cycle of external validation. You become addicted to the short-term boost of feeling seen or heard, but in the long run, it's like emotional junk food. It doesn't actually nourish you, and it leaves you feeling empty. Here's the truth: not everyone needs to know your struggles. Not everyone deserves access to your raw moments. You see, when you share the messy, vulnerable parts of your life indiscriminately, you're not just being honest. You're opening the door for others to project their fears, biases, or even their negativity onto you. And that's a weight you shouldn't have to carry, because when you're already dealing with your own challenges, the last thing you need is the extra burden of someone else's unsolicited advice or judgment. It's a subtle, quiet thing. You might think you're just being open, but the real cost comes later. You start to second guess yourself. You wonder if you've shared too much. You worry if people are talking about you behind your back. You feel anxious about how you're perceived. It's a mental drain that seeps into everything: your focus, your creativity, your relationships. It's like you're constantly trying to clean up the mess of everyone else's opinions, and in the process, you forget what your own voice sounds like. Let me be clear: sharing isn't the problem. It's the habit of oversharing, of giving away parts of yourself too freely to people who haven't earned that trust. That's silently destroying your energy. It's a quiet, steady leak in your confidence. You don't notice it at first, but after a while, you realize you're feeling more tired, more exposed, and more out of touch with your own needs. That's because every time you share too much, you're giving up a little bit of your emotional safety. Think about it like this: imagine you have a beautiful garden. If you invite everyone in, letting them walk through and trample your flowers, pretty soon there's nothing left. Your garden doesn't feel like yours anymore. It feels like a public park. And that's exactly what happens when you overshare. You're giving people access to your most sacred spaces, and it's exhausting to keep cleaning up after the footprints they leave behind. So, what's the alternative? It's setting boundaries. It's understanding that not everyone has earned the right to your story. It's being intentional about who you share with and why. Because when you start to protect your emotional energy, something incredible happens. You start to feel stronger. You start to feel more grounded. You're no longer seeking validation from the outside world. You're finding it within yourself, and that's where real power lies. When you stop oversharing, you're no longer depending on the opinions of others to shape your self-worth. You're not handing over the pen and letting someone else write your story. You're standing in your own life on your own terms. You're reclaiming your voice, your narrative, and your peace. I know it's not easy. We live in a world that encourages us to share everything, to be transparent, to be real, to always be performing, but there's a difference between authenticity and oversharing. Authenticity is about being true to yourself in a way that feels right and safe for you. Oversharing is about giving away pieces of yourself to people who haven't earned it. It's about letting your guard down in ways that leave you feeling more exposed than empowered. So I'm not telling you to shut down or close off completely. I'm telling you to be mindful, to pause before you share, to ask yourself, does this feel good to share, or am I just seeking a quick hit of connection? Will this actually serve me, or will it leave me feeling more vulnerable than I want to be? When you get intentional about what you share and who you share it with, you're taking back your emotional energy. You're making sure that the parts of yourself that matter most, the parts that make you unique and whole, are protected. You're telling the world, I'm worth more than your quick opinion. My life is mine, and I get to choose how much of it I let you see. And in that choice, in that mindful decision, you'll find a quiet strength that's been there all along. A strength that doesn't need an audience, a strength that's rooted in self-respect and self-love, because at the end of the day, your emotional energy is your most precious resource. Stop giving it away to people who haven't earned it. Start holding it close, like the treasure it is, because you, my friend, are worth that. Social media doesn't need your life story. Think about that for a second, because it's so easy to forget. We live in a world where we're encouraged, practically trained, to share everything online, what we're doing, how we're feeling, who we're with, what we're going through. It's become this endless cycle of updates, posts, and stories that make it feel like if you're not sharing, you're not living. But the truth is, the more you share, the more you're handing over your peace of mind to an audience that doesn't deserve it. Let's be real, social media is not a safe haven for your personal life. It's a stage, and you're the performer. But here's the thing, no one's really paying attention for more than a split second. People scroll past your deepest thoughts without giving them a second glance, or worse, they might judge you, compare themselves to you, or make assumptions based on a single post. And you're left with the weight of having let people into something they were never meant to be a part of. It's one thing to share a highlight reel, a happy moment, or an accomplishment you're proud of. But when you start sharing every detail of your personal life, your heartbreaks, your anxieties, your family drama, what you're really doing is opening the door to opinions that you never asked for. Social media doesn't just amplify your voice, it invites in a chorus of voices that don't really know you, don't really care about you, and certainly don't have your best interests at heart. The irony is that the more you share, the less seen you actually feel. Because deep down, you know those curated posts aren't the full picture of your life. They're fragments, snapshots of what you choose to reveal, and yet we fall into this trap of thinking that if we don't share, we're somehow invisible or irrelevant. That if we're not posting, we're not participating. But let me tell you something. Your life is not measured by how many people see it. Your worth isn't defined by how many likes or views you get. Every time you post a personal update, you're giving away a little piece of your story to people who haven't earned the right to hold it. You're letting strangers peer into moments that are meant to be yours. You're turning your memories and milestones into public property, and you're doing it for what? For fleeting validation, for that quick dopamine hit of a like or a comment. It's not worth it, because here's what happens: you start to edit yourself. You start to live for the post, not the moment. You start to wonder how something will look on your feed instead of how it feels in your heart. You start to second guess your choices, wondering how they'll be perceived. And that's when social media stops being a tool and starts being a trap. I'm not saying you have to disappear completely. Social media can be a powerful way to connect and share ideas, but it doesn't need to be the place where you pour out your soul. It doesn't need to be the stage for every heartbreak or triumph. It's okay to keep some things sacred. It's okay to have parts of your life that belong only to you and the people who matter most. Because when you stop sharing everything, you create space for real connection. You find yourself listening more to your own voice instead of the noise of everyone else's. You discover the beauty of living in the moment without needing to document it for the world to see. You start to feel the richness of your life, not because someone else validated it, but because you're experiencing it fully in real time. There's also this quiet power in mystery, this strength in holding back what's most precious to you. When you keep parts of your life private, you're not just protecting yourself from judgment, you're honoring your own journey. You're saying, this is mine and it's not for public consumption. And that's a boundary that can change everything, because once you set that boundary, you stop living for the feed and start living for yourself. We've been taught that sharing is caring, and in some ways that's true. But there's a difference between caring and oversharing. There's a difference between opening up to someone who's earned your trust and broadcasting your life to people who see you as just another post to scroll past. Social media doesn't care about your personal life. It cares about engagement, algorithms, and numbers. Don't confuse that for real connection. So here's the challenge. Start reclaiming your life from the feed. Start asking yourself if what you're about to share truly needs to be out there. Is it something that will bring you closer to your true self, or just another moment for people to consume and move on from? You don't owe the world an explanation for every joy or every struggle. You don't have to prove your worth through your posts. You already have value, whether or not you share it with anyone. Your life is a precious thing. It's not content to be consumed by strangers or acquaintances who have no stake in your well-being. So hold it close. Live it fully, and remember that the most powerful moments are often the ones no one else sees, the ones that belong only to you, because in the end, social media doesn't need your life story, but you. You need your life to be yours, and that's the real story worth living. Privacy builds power and mystery. When you decide to keep parts of your life to yourself, you're not hiding, you're actually cultivating something sacred. In a world that constantly pushes us to put everything on display, choosing to keep things private is like planting seeds in a garden where no one else can trample them. It's a quiet rebellion against the noise of oversharing and the endless chatter of other people's opinions. You see, there's an unspoken strength in not telling everyone everything. It's not about shutting people out or putting up walls. It's about honoring your own journey enough to know that not every part of it is meant to be shared. When you keep certain things private, your dreams, your struggles, your moments of joy, you're giving yourself a safe space to process, to grow, and to be fully present without worrying about how it will be received or judged by others. Privacy allows you to experiment, to make mistakes, to be imperfect without an audience, and in that privacy, there's freedom. You're not performing for anyone. You're not editing yourself to fit someone else's expectations. You're living for yourself in your own timeline on your own terms. That's powerful. That's where real confidence begins. When you stop needing other people to validate your choices or your experiences. There's also a kind of magic that happens when you don't reveal everything. Think about the people you admire the most, the ones who seem to carry a quiet confidence, a sense of mystery. It's not because they're withholding just for the sake of it. It's because they understand that the most valuable parts of who they are aren't meant for everyone. They share selectively, intentionally, and that's what makes their presence feel magnetic. Because what's rare and protected naturally becomes more powerful, mystery doesn't mean deception. It doesn't mean you're being fake or dishonest. It means you're discerning. You're choosing what's right for you and who has earned the right to see those parts of you. That discernment is a skill, a muscle you build over time, and it starts with trusting yourself enough to know that not everyone needs a front row seat to your life. Here's what most people don't realize. When you hold things back, you're actually giving them more weight. You're saying, this part of my life is too precious to be reduced to gossip or chatter. You're protecting the things that make you you, your fears, your hopes, your relationships. You're not giving everyone else the chance to distort them or take them for granted. That's not just about boundaries, it's about self-respect. And let's be honest, when you share everything, you're giving people ammunition. You're giving them the chance to pick apart your life, to twist your words, to turn your vulnerability into entertainment. But when you keep things private, you're taking back the narrative. You're saying, this is mine to hold, mine to nurture, mine to grow. And in that choice, you find a kind of peace that can't be shaken by outside noise. It's so tempting to believe that if we're not sharing, we're not connecting. But real connection doesn't come from revealing everything. It comes from sharing the right things with the right people, the people who have shown up for you time and time again, the people who care enough to hold your truths with tenderness and respect. When you learn to share selectively, those connections become deeper and more meaningful because they're built on trust, not performance. Privacy also gives you the gift of perspective. When you're not constantly broadcasting your life, you have the space to actually live it, to notice the small, quiet moments that don't need an audience. You have the time to reflect, to heal, and to figure out what you want without the pressure of how it looks to everyone else. And that's when you start to realize that the most important parts of your life are the ones that no one else sees. I know it's not always easy. In a culture that rewards oversharing and instant updates, choosing to be private can feel like swimming upstream. But I promise you it's worth it, because in that choice, you're building a foundation of inner strength. You're proving to yourself that you don't need outside validation to feel whole, and that quiet confidence, it's magnetic. It's the kind of energy that draws people in without you ever having to shout or overshare. So, take a moment today and think about what parts of your life you want to hold close. What parts feel too tender, too important to put on display. Protect those parts fiercely. Share them only with people who have earned your trust. Because when you honor your privacy, you're not just keeping secrets. You're building a sanctuary for your own growth. You're choosing to let your life unfold in its own time without the pressure of outside eyes. And in that choice, there's power, power to live with intention, power to protect what matters most, power to know that your story doesn't lose its value just because fewer people see it. In fact, it becomes even more valuable because it's yours. Yours to hold, yours to shape, yours to live. And that, my friend, is a kind of freedom that no amount of likes or followers can ever replace. Protecting your mental health should be a top priority, and one of the best ways to do that is by guarding what you share with the world. We often underestimate the toll that oversharing takes on our well-being. In the moment, it might feel like a relief, like you're getting something off your chest, but the aftermath can be brutal. Suddenly, everyone has an opinion about your life. People you don't even know feel entitled to weigh in, and that noise can drown out your own voice. When you share too much, you open yourself up to a flood of unsolicited advice, criticism, and even meaning but misguided support that doesn't truly help you. And let's be real, Most of that noise has nothing to do with you and everything to do with other people's insecurities or need to be heard. But the damage is real because every opinion and comment piles up in your mind, making it harder for you to hear your own thoughts. Mental health thrives in safe spaces. When you're constantly sharing your personal life with people who haven't earned your trust, you're basically turning your mind into an open forum. You're giving people access to parts of you that are still healing or forming. And that's a dangerous game because not everyone is equipped to handle your truth with care. Some people will judge you, some will dismiss you, some will use your vulnerability as gossip fodder, and all of that seeps into your head and your heart. It's important to remember that your struggles and challenges are not meant to be entertainment for others. They're real, and they deserve real respect. When you overshare, you're giving people a front row seat to your process, your fears, your uncertainties, your pain. But here's the thing, healing is not a performance. Growth doesn't happen when you're constantly worried about how it will look to others. It happens in quiet, private spaces where you can be honest with yourself without the noise of outside opinions. Protecting your mental health is about creating boundaries around your experiences. It's about saying, this is for me, this is my space to process. It's not about shutting everyone out or pretending you're fine when you're not. It's about being selective, about choosing the people who have shown that they are safe to open up to, the people who will hold your truths with compassion and who will support you without turning it into a spectacle. We've been conditioned to think that sharing our struggles is always empowering, and sometimes it is. But there's a big difference between sharing to connect and sharing because you feel pressured to. If you're posting every moment of your struggle online, hoping for validation or comfort, you're often left feeling more alone than before. Because those comments and likes, they're fleeting. They don't fill the void that comes from not having a safe, real space to process what you're going through. Your mental health deserves more than quick fixes and surface-level validation. It deserves care and protection. And that starts with learning to hold some things close to say, I'm not ready to share this, or this doesn't belong to the public. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Because when you protect your mental health, you're making sure that the most vulnerable parts of you aren't subject to other people's projections or criticisms. And let's be honest, the internet doesn't forget. When you share your struggles online, you're creating a permanent record of something that might just be a temporary feeling. You're tying your identity to a moment that doesn't define you. And even if you're able to move past it, there's always the chance that someone will bring it back up or use it against you later. That can weigh heavily on your mind, making it harder to let go and move on. When you protect your mental health, you're giving yourself the gift of perspective. You're allowing yourself to process things in your own time, in your own way, without the pressure of an audience. You're giving yourself room to heal, to change your mind, to grow. And that's something that can't happen when you're constantly performing your life for others. Privacy and mental health go hand in hand. When you stop oversharing, you create a buffer between yourself and the world. You're not isolating yourself. You're insulating yourself. You're creating a safe space where you can be honest with yourself, where you can figure out what you need without feeling like you owe anyone an explanation. So let this be a reminder, your mental health is worth more than a moment of online validation. It's worth more than the temporary rush of telling everyone everything. Protect it fiercely. Choose who you share with carefully. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with your thoughts and feelings, not the people scrolling past your posts. There's a kind of quiet power that comes from keeping your personal struggles private. It's not about bottling things up or pretending they don't exist. It's about knowing that your healing process doesn't need to be public to be real. It's about giving yourself the space to feel what you need to feel, without anyone else's expectations clouding your mind. So, take a step back and ask yourself, are you sharing because you need help from the right people, or are you sharing because you're afraid of being invisible? Remember that real healing, real mental health, comes from within. It comes from creating a life that feels safe and nurturing for you, not from putting it on display for the world to see. Hold your peace close, honor your own process. That's where real strength lies. And that's how you protect your mental health, one quiet boundary at a time. Sharing less means living more. In a world that demands you to document everything, to prove your worth, your happiness, your progress, there's a quiet freedom in simply choosing to live without the constant need to announce it. When you stop oversharing, you reclaim your time and your attention. You start to notice the little moments that actually matter: the morning light through your window, the laughter of someone you love, the feeling of accomplishment after a long day's work. These things don't need an audience. They don't need validation. They're real and they're yours. The problem with oversharing is that it puts you in a constant state of performance. You're no longer living for yourself, you're living for the reactions of others. You're turning your life into a story that has to be told in a way that gets approval. And in that process, you start to lose touch with what's truly important. You forget that not every thought, not every experience needs to be broadcast. Some things are meant to be felt, not posted. Some moments are meant to be lived fully, not turned into content for consumption. When you stop sharing everything, you start to experience life in its purest form. You're not distracted by how it looks on camera or how it might be perceived by people who only know you through a screen. You're free to be fully present, to immerse yourself in what's in front of you. And in that presence, you discover a deeper joy, a joy that isn't dependent on likes or comments, but on the simple truth of being alive. Think about it. Every time you stop to share, you're pulling yourself out of the moment. You're turning your focus away from what's happening to you and toward how it will look to others. That split-second decision, should I post this, can rob you of the very experience you're trying to capture. And once you're in that cycle, it's hard to get out. You start to see everything as content, not as life. You start to measure every experience by how it will perform online, not by how it feels in your heart. Living more means letting go of that performance. It means allowing yourself to be fully in the moment, without worrying about how it will look to anyone else. It means remembering that the best parts of life are the ones that no one else sees. The quiet mornings, the inside jokes, the tears that fall when no one's watching. These are the moments that shape you. These are the moments that matter. It also means giving yourself the space to be messy, to be real, without the fear of being judged. Because when you share less, you're not inviting the world into your process. You're giving yourself permission to grow and change without the burden of an audience. You're allowing yourself to make mistakes, to learn, to evolve in private. And that privacy is a gift, one that too many people trade away for the false security of online approval. Living more means having deeper conversations with the people who matter, not just surface-level updates for everyone else. It means showing up in real life, not just in curated photos. It means being present in the spaces that actually nurture you, your family, your friendships, your own mind. When you stop sharing everything, you make more room for those real connections. You start to realize that the people who truly matter are the ones who show up for you when the cameras are off, when there's nothing to post, when it's just you and them in the quiet of your life. And here's the thing. When you stop sharing everything, you give yourself back to yourself. You're no longer defined by the reactions of others. You're no longer a character in someone else's scrolling feed. You're just you living, breathing, feeling, experiencing, and that's enough, more than enough. We're told that if we don't share it, it doesn't count, that if it's not seen, it's not real, but that's a lie. The most real parts of your life are the ones that no one else will ever see. The way you feel when you're alone in the morning, the dreams you have for your future, the quiet resilience you build day by day. These things are not less valuable because they're unseen. They're more valuable because they're yours alone. So let yourself live, let yourself be, without the pressure to perform, without the need to prove. Let the moments wash over you. Let them shape you in ways no one else will ever fully understand. Because that's the beauty of a life well lived, it's yours. It doesn't need to be validated by strangers. It doesn't need to be turned into a story for someone else to consume. The next time you feel the urge to share everything, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because it's meaningful to me or because I want someone else to see it? Am I living this moment or am I performing it? Because when you choose to live more and share less, you're not missing out. You're not falling behind. You're actually moving closer to the kind of life that's rich and full and real. A life that's yours, and that's the life worth living.